Guys, for over time, whenever I think about Henry Danger, with it being the lowest point of Schneider's Bakery, to the point that after season 4, Dan Schneider ended up leaving due to people talking about him, all the while retiring from making Nickelodeon shows. I'm getting the impression that Henry Danger has been bashed on way too much, to the point that while it's not a great show, I don't see it as a terrible show the more I look into the episodes. Just because it's not on the same levels as Drake and Josh and iCarly doesn't automatically mean I find this show one of the worst sitcoms ever. But at the same time, episodes like this, Danger Things, really sums up everything onto why this show is just the way it is, but it's not bothering on improving when it comes to the material it's given. Danger Things is the second Halloween episode where Henry carves a pumpkin out of Ray's face while his parents are gonna be staying over at a haunted house in order to get the passing uncle's inheritance, which means that Henry needs to take care of Piper. Unfortunately, after Henry took Piper to Junk and Stuff, a monster appears out of nowhere to take Piper away after he took other kids away in his own words, that Ray and the others are trying to find the solution on where the portal is coming from when it comes to the monster's whereabouts. Usually this is the point where the episode is showcasing of what the monster could really cause harm towards kids, as what people would think when it comes to a scenario of a monster abducting or capturing people to bring to his own world, which I did see in other Halloween material in the past. But considering that Henry Danger doesn't usually go too dark when it comes to these types of material, the thumbnail of this review really speaks for itself when it comes to the monster, who is called Kevin, and the background, which is from a different world entirely. Let me just say for a fact that the more I remember this show after binge watching it, it kind of sums up the nature that they're trying to do a subversion, even though that the subversion really gave you the indication that the main characters are not going to get the idea before it's too late. Which, in all honesty, that is something I've been noticing when it comes to the two superheroes, Captain Man and Henry Danger, aka Ray and Henry. When it comes to saving people's lives, we're not getting the full context of what's really happening. But I don't entirely blame them when it comes to saving these characters from a monster that barely gets any screen time. Like, it's one thing that that Piper and the other characters are not getting any harm whatsoever when it comes to the true nature of Kevin's world, but every time that you introduce these types of elements and there's barely any attention when it comes to the material, it really makes me to believe that they're literally doing this for a short amount of time, even though it's weird considering that the production of Henry Danger isn't really as painful nor restricted in comparison to the productions of the later seasons of iCarly and obviously Sam and Cat. Obviously, we shouldn't have the same show when it comes to the drama aspects from the older Schneider's Bakery shows like iCarly Victorious, but every time I look at this show from beginning to end when it comes to its cheesy factor, it really feels like that the cheesy factor is mostly done in a way that has no direction other than just being cheesy. Like, it's not a problem to be cheesy in order to have a show like this work, which I'm pretty sure that's why some people actually enjoy Henry Danger. But the more you look at the cheesiness factor when it comes to the characters not realizing what is really going on, mainly Wei and Henry, it really gave me the impression that everyone is mostly going through the motions for the most part. And as far as I'm concerned, going through the motions isn't a criticism when it comes to the acting of the characters. Like, they're fine, but it's mainly the direction that they take when it comes to the actions that they take by saving people, but while not getting an understanding of what's really going on. And this really sums up the nature that literally every single character isn't really in the right, but at the same time, it's difficult to see them in the wrong. Obviously, it's no surprise that Henry is supposed to respect Piper when it comes to her safety and making sure that she is safe and sound. But when it comes to the material involving Kevin and him wanting friends without him causing harm whatsoever, it just feels like it's difficult to feel sympathy towards him while also seeing Piper's normal side while she's actually nice. Because as far as I'm concerned, with those types of materials being put into place without any execution whatsoever, it makes this Halloween episode shallow rather than being really meaningful. Like, I'm fine if you don't go too hard when it comes to the Halloween aspect or the horror aspect when it comes to a plot like this. However, it doesn't excuse if you don't attempt on making those aspects work. As in, making them interesting and somewhat justifiable. Because a monster needing friends isn't a bad idea, but with the type of direction of how this episode is structured and for how it should have been 44 minutes long, then maybe it would have actually benefit more screen time involving Kevin, while also fixing the ending where Wei completely sets a bomb in the portal in Kevin's world in order to have the portal destroyed. Because the ending that we got, well, after the portal got destroyed, while getting the information at the last minute, Piper and the others are just mostly acceptive of Captain Man and Henry Danger just leaving and nothing happens. They just don't react to a negative feeling nor a depressing feeling. They just act nothing. Which for me personally just sums up the nature that these types of endings just feels a way more lifeless, to the point that there's no continuation. Like, this is just basically one of those endings, well, you wanted something but apparently you get nothing. It's kind of like the iCarly episode iPailstar, that after Freddy got fired, Sam gets fired and there's no resolution whatsoever when it comes to Freddy, who's basically the characters that Kevin captured to take to his world. For a Halloween episode, it's lackluster to say the least, but at the same time, I wasn't really expecting much in comparison to what iCarly did with its second Halloween episode. I would say for a fact that if this show, that this episode was actually 44 minutes long instead of 22 minutes, I'm pretty sure it would have had proper direction. Like, I am fully aware that Dan Schneider is really out of his element at this point, to the point that when he left, more and more people have been talking about him, including the Dark Side of Children shows, mainly Quiet on Set. But I didn't watch that. No, I'm against the people making it, but it really feels like that Dan Schneider just really had less passion into doing this in comparison to what he did in the last shows that he did in the past. But like I said, this isn't a good show, but it's not a bad show after watching the first 3 seasons when it aired on Netflix years ago, and of course the 4th season, and I'm stuck in the 5th season. Hopefully I can wrap that up, but my point is, after giving this show a chance, it just gave me the impression that it's not as bad as what people make it out to be. It just feels like that they're only thinking about the Dan Schneider situation, which I don't blame them, but looking at this show on its own, it's harmless, but at the same time, not a harmless good show. For a Halloween episode, obviously it's not the best, but it's not like that this show is capable of making good holiday episodes. I am planning on reviewing more episodes from this show, hopefully next month by reviewing another season 4 episode. But keep in mind, my perspective towards this show is mainly me being slightly generous, considering that even though that this show is nowhere near as good as iCarly or Drake and Josh, it's not like, despite Dan Schneider using his touch, no inappropriate pun intended, being judgmental towards this show just isn't really a thing that works out nowadays. I can guarantee that if Dan Schneider did stay when it comes to making a new show after this, I'm pretty sure that's where he will reach to a new low that I don't think that Henry Danger or possibly Game Shakers would ever reach. But like I said, there is a chance that I'm gonna be reviewing more episodes from this show by not being too judgmental, but when it comes to the next episode that I'm gonna be tackling, I did have some gripes with it. Just keep in mind, the episode I'm gonna be tackling is mainly my point of view of why I feel that the episode would have been way more better since it had more potential than this episode. But with that being said, you're just gonna have to wait until next month possibly of what that episode is that I'm gonna be tackling from season 4. I'm giving this episode a 5.5 out of 10.